The boy was standing at the edge of the gas station parking lot, watching them like they were superheroes who had just landed from another planet. His Spider-Man backpack hung loosely from his thin shoulders, the fabric faded and torn at the seams. His jeans had holes in both knees, not the fashionable kind, but the kind that came from falling too many times on concrete. But none of that was what made every single biker in the Iron Guardians motorcycle club stop what they were doing and stare. It was the black eye. Deep, purple, and swollen nearly shut, spreading across the left side of his small face like a storm cloud that had settled there permanently. The boy couldn't have been older than 8, maybe 9 years old. And he was walking directly toward them, 15 men in leather vests covered in tattoos, beards reaching their chests, arms thick as tree trunks. The kind of men that made people cross the street. The kind of men that mothers pulled their children away from in grocery stores. But this child walked toward them like they were the safest thing he had ever seen. Like they were home. Now, if you believe that real heroes sometimes come in the most unexpected forms, take a moment to hit that like button. Drop a comment below, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Biker Stories right now. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. The boy stopped 3 feet in front of Marcus Kane, the president of the Iron Guardians. Marcus was 6'5", 260 pounds of muscle and scars. His beard was streaked with gray, and his eyes had seen things that would break most men. He had served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He had buried his wife to cancer. He had watched his own father drink himself to death. And yet, when this small boy looked up at him with one good eye and one swollen shut, Marcus felt something crack open in his chest that he thought had sealed over years ago. The boy's voice was barely a whisper. "Mister, will you be my dad, just for one day?" The gas station fell silent, the hum of the pumps, the distant rumble of highway traffic. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. 15 hardened men stood frozen, every single one of them transported back to their own childhoods in that moment. The hunger, the fear, the desperate wish for someone, anyone, to show up and make it stop. Marcus slowly lowered himself to one knee, his leather vest creaking with the movement. Up close, the damage was even worse. The bruise extended from the boy's eyebrow down to his cheekbone. His bottom lip was split and healing. And there were older marks too, faded yellow bruises on his neck that told a story Marcus recognized far too well. "What's your name, little man?" Marcus kept his voice soft, the way he used to talk to his daughter before she grew up and moved across the country. The boy sniffled, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. "Ethan. Ethan Reed." "Ethan, that's a strong name. I'm Marcus. These are my brothers." He gestured to the men behind him, every single one of them now moving closer, forming a protective wall around this child they had known for less than 30 seconds. "Can you tell me why you need a dad for a day?" Ethan's good eye darted toward the ground, then back up. "Career day. At school. Tomorrow. Everyone's bringing their parents to talk about their jobs." He swallowed hard, his small throat bobbing. "I don't have anyone to bring. My real dad left before I was born, and my mom's boyfriend—" He stopped, his fingers unconsciously touching the bruise around his eye. He said, "I'm not worth taking a day off for." Marcus felt his jaw tighten so hard his teeth ached. Behind him, he heard Danny shifting his weight, the way he always did when he was trying not to lose his temper. He heard Victor crack his knuckles. He heard the sharp intake of breath from Tommy, who had aged out of foster care with scars that matched the ones on this boy's face. "Where's your mama right now, Ethan?" Marcus asked gently. "She's at work. She works 2 jobs. The diner in the morning, the factory at night." Ethan's voice carried the weight of understanding far beyond his years. "She's always tired. She cries a lot when she thinks I'm sleeping." "And her boyfriend? What's his name?" "Garrett. Garrett Holloway. He lives with us now. He moved in 6 months ago." Ethan looked down at his worn sneakers. He was nice at first. He brought pizza and let me watch TV. But then he started drinking the brown stuff in the bottles. And then he got mean. Marcus recognized the pattern like a scar on his own skin. The charm offensive. The slow reveal of the monster underneath. The way predators always moved into homes like parasites, feeding on the exhaustion of single mothers who just wanted someone to help carry the weight. Ethan, this shiner you've got. Marcus reached out slowly, giving the boy time to flinch away. Would you look away? I want you to think about that for a moment. And while you're thinking, take a second to subscribe to Biker Stories if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss stories like this. Because what happens next is exactly why these stories need to be told. The Iron Guardians didn't operate in shadows. They didn't resort to vigilante violence, no matter how satisfying it might have been in the moment. They understood that real justice, lasting justice, required patience and strategy. Over the next 72 hours, they built a case. The school nurse, who had been documenting suspicious injuries on Ethan for months, finally had someone willing to listen. 2 neighbors came forward with statements about screaming matches they had heard through the walls. Garrett's ex-girlfriends, tracked down through careful investigation, were willing to testify about the patterns of abuse they had survived. Most importantly, Ethan's mother, Linda, finally learned the truth. She had been working so hard, stretched so thin that she had missed the signs. Or maybe she hadn't missed them. Maybe she had been too afraid to see them, too exhausted to face another battle. But when Marcus and Danny sat her down, when they showed her the photographs of her son's injuries documented over 6 months, when they played the recording of Garrett's ex-girlfriend describing the exact same escalating pattern of abuse, Linda's denial shattered. She wept for hours. She blamed herself. She repeated again and again that she should have known, she should have seen, she should have protected her baby. But the bikers didn't let her drown in guilt. You didn't know, Danny told her gently. Predators like Garrett. They're experts at hiding. They pick people who are vulnerable, who are exhausted, who need help. That's not a weakness. That's being human. What matters now, Marcus added, is what you do next. We're going to help you. But you have to be willing to fight. Linda looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but fierce. I'll do anything to protect my son. The police arrived at the house the next evening. Garrett was arrested on charges of child abuse, with additional charges pending as more evidence came to light. The investigation revealed he had been siphoning money from Linda's accounts, controlling her access to her own car, isolating her from friends and family. Classic abuser playbook, executed with chilling precision. But the most chilling discovery came from Ethan himself. Once Garrett was gone, once the boy felt safe enough to speak, he revealed that Garrett had told him if he ever told anyone about the beatings, Garrett would hurt his mother next. He would make sure Linda lost her jobs, her house, her life. Ethan had been suffering in silence, taking the abuse, protecting his mother the only way he knew how. When Marcus heard this, he had to step outside. He stood in the parking lot of the police station, hands braced against his bike, trying to breathe through the rage and the sorrow and the overwhelming admiration for this small boy who had carried such an impossible weight. That night, the Iron Guardians made a decision. They weren't just going to save Ethan. They were going to show up for him. Not for one day, not for 1 week, but for as long as he needed them. They set up a rotation. Every afternoon, a different member would pick Ethan up from school. They helped him with homework at the clubhouse. They taught him to play pool, to change oil, to stand up straight and look people in the eye. Danny, who had struggled with reading until he was 16, spent hours helping Ethan with his book reports. Victor, who had never had children of his own, built Ethan a treehouse in Linda's backyard that was the envy of the entire neighborhood. And Marcus. Marcus was there for everything, every nightmare that woke Ethan screaming, every school play and soccer game and ordinary Tuesday evening dinner. He became the constant that Ethan had never had. The steady presence that proved every day that some men stayed. 3 years passed like water under a bridge. Ethan grew taller, stronger, more confident. The bruises healed, both visible and invisible. He still had hard days, moments when the memories crashed over him like waves. But now he had people to hold on to. People who wouldn't let him drown. On the day of Ethan's 12th birthday, the Iron Guardians threw him a party at the clubhouse. 50 people showed up, brothers from chapters across the state. There was a cake shaped like a motorcycle. There were presents stacked higher than Ethan's head. There was laughter and music, and the kind of chaos that only comes from a family that has chosen each other. But the real gift came at the end of the night. Marcus stood up, clearing his throat, and the room fell silent. "Ethan," Marcus began, his voice thick with emotion. 3 years ago, a scared little kid walked up to us and asked if we would be his dad for one day. He held up a leather vest, child-sized, with a patch on the back that read, Junior Guardian. "You're not just part of this club anymore, son. You're one of us. Forever." Ethan took the vest with shaking hands. He put it on, and it fit perfectly. Then he looked up at Marcus with eyes that were no longer swollen or bruised, eyes that shone with tears of joy instead of pain. "Does this mean you're my dad now?" Ethan asked. "For real?" Marcus knelt down, just like he had 3 years ago in that gas station parking lot. "If you want me to be." Ethan threw his arms around Marcus's neck. "I've wanted that since the first day I saw you." The cheers that erupted shook the walls. Linda stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face, watching her son become part of something bigger than either of them had ever imagined. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece. She had finished her nursing degree. She had bought a small house 2 blocks from the clubhouse. And she had learned, finally, that accepting help wasn't weakness. It was survival. Today, Ethan is 16 years old. He volunteers every weekend at a local shelter, talking to kids who are going through what he went through. He tells them his story. He shows them his vest. He proves that there is life after pain, hope after despair, family after abandonment. And every year, on the anniversary of that first career day, the Iron Guardians ride to Riverside Elementary School. They park in perfect formation, 20, 30, sometimes 40 bikes deep. They walk into classrooms and tell their stories. They show children that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather. Sometimes they ride motorcycles. Sometimes they look like the kind of people the world tells you to fear. But if you're brave enough to ask for help, if you're strong enough to reach out, you might just find that the people who seem the scariest are the ones with the biggest hearts. Ethan walked into a gas station and asked a group of bikers to be his dad. And they didn't just say yes. They showed up every single day, and they never stopped. That's not just a story. That's a promise. And it's a promise that every child deserves to receive. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something. If this touched your heart, if you believe that family is more than blood, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Biker Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story about courage, redemption, and the families we choose. Because somewhere out there, there's another Ethan waiting for someone to show up. And maybe, just maybe, that someone could be you. The leather vest still hangs in Ethan's closet. The patch on the back has faded slightly with time and wear. But the words are still visible, still powerful, still true. Junior Guardian. Forever family. And that, more than any blood or legal document, is what makes someone your father. Not obligation. Not biology. Just love, showing up, day after day, until the child who once asked for one day gets a lifetime instead.